Hi and welcome to PHP blog website development course. Today we are going to work with sessions and we will be able to log in a user based on the email and password he provides. Remember, we did registration last time, so if you don't like to start from scratch, you can download the files which are right in description and follow along with me. So before we actually start to code, let's first understand what are sessions. For this reason, I am gonna create a file and I will call it test.php, which we will later remove. To imagine what are sessions, let's imagine the situation that you are in a browser. Let's imagine you go to facebook.com and you log into page and you browse as a user. It uses HTTPS protocol, as we can see in the top, and HTTP itself is stateless protocol. So every time you refresh the page, it's not gonna have any memory what you did before refreshing. So in this case, there is a question how we can save the state in which the user was, and this is how we use the sessions. With sessions, we make variables which are being saved on the server side and which are saved also on the client side. So it can be identified by the server that this is actually the guy who just logged in, and it won't ask you to log into your Facebook page, for example, all and over again. PHP itself has a good toolkit to work with sessions, so let me show it, but right after opening PHP text. So every time you want to start a session in PHP, you use a function called session start, which puts information there. And right after the session is started, we can save information inside our active session. This is how it's being done. We tell $_ like every super global like we used in get or post. We do the same for the server, and we use here session. We give it a name, for example, as an array name, and the name is gonna be equal to Jonathan. And this is how information is saved there. And in the same way, we can save the surname, or let's say family, and it's gonna be saved in an array, in an associative array, which we can also get in the same way as we assigned it. I'm gonna delete this and talk about one more thing, or better, let's keep this yet. If you wanna destroy the session, we use session destroy, which deletes all the data which was accessible after session start. Or we can just unset the data. So we are gonna use unset and give it as a parameter the session, one of the keys with its value. So that's it. Understand how sessions work, and if you did not still quite catch how the things are working, let's imagine when you sit in a restaurant, your session starts, and when you stand up and leave the restaurant, your session ends, and everything that you did in there that you order, it no longer exists. So this is how the sessions are working. I'm gonna delete this test.php file because we no longer need it, and I'm gonna go to my login, which we actually have to work on, and I have also my server started, which is right here, and I'm gonna go to our login page. We have created when we were making the mockup. So we have an email and a password, and we need to get the information once the button is clicked. So let's do again as we did before. It's gonna use post method in order for us to get the information, and an action is gonna be in the same place as we did for registration. So better, let's go to register. I'm gonna copy this from the form in here. Yeah, it's here. Let's copy this just so as we don't have to write it manually. Let's save this, and that's it. We did the first step. Information goes there, but let's give names to input so as we can access it. This is gonna be called email, and the other one is gonna be called password, passwd, and the submit button is gonna be called button log. Let's save this and jump straight to our file where our action is gonna be handled, and I believe it's in reg.php. And we are gonna check. We used here reg submit, so we are gonna have the same if statement to check if the button was clicked. But by then, let's add a comment registering the users, and in this case it's gonna be logging in the users. Gonna paste it, and of course close the if tag in our case, but it's not gonna happen when reg submit is gonna be active. We are gonna do it when we have button log submitted. So this time let's change the name, and the rest is true. Anyway, we use the post method. And here we are gonna get two main information, which is an email and password. Let's copy these lines because we are gonna the same serialization and the same as we did before, so no need to repeat the things. And that's it. So we have this email and passwd, and let's check one more time. I think it's the same name. Yes, passwd. So we have this already, and let's go with standard checks. We don't want actually them to be empty, so nothing can come empty back to us. So I'm gonna copy this email and password. If we have empty email or we have empty password, we are gonna save the information inside an array of objects as we did in case of registration. Yeah, we have it here, but I'm gonna make this here ERR array log. We are gonna save them here and we are gonna access it later. So let's save this. So first of all, if they are empty, let's use array push like we did the last time, the same as we did in registration, and it's gonna have two values. The first value is accept the name of the variable, which is gonna hold the value, and the next it's gonna accept whatever we pass in there. It's gonna be a string, and the string is gonna be, you have an empty field. Field, all fields must be filled. So that's it. We did push it in here, and what we are gonna check the next, that none of them shall be less than 6 characters. Or I think we did this when we register. Here, if someone does not know what it's his password, we don't need to give any hint to the user what he or she must be doing about it. So if it's not empty, let's first check that we really get the right email and the user with the corresponding email does exist. So I'm gonna continue with else. So if it's not empty one of them, we are gonna continue. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's call email exists, which is gonna be equal to our select one function, which we have written in our one of the first lessons. I believe it's in our connect.php, and yeah, it's all correct. We need to we have it here. Let me show it to you. Here it selects one. First it accepts the table, which are users in our case, and the other one is an array of objects which we have identified which one we want. So we are gonna have select one, which of course gonna have users, as I told, and it's gonna have email, because this is the name of the column inside our database table. If you don't remember what it is, let me show it to you. I'm gonna come here for us. I'm gonna go to our blog, which is our database, and if I go to users, you will see that we have here email. So everything is correct, and an email shall be equal to the email we got right in here. So this should be all correct, and what we need to do the next, we need to compare the passwords. The password which user did give to us when he tried to log in, and to compare if it corresponds or matches the password which is right in here, which is in our database. So let's open our code editor one more time, and before we continue, let's make here, let's print the query, which is the function we have done together. Print query email exists, and to know for sure that we get the real answer. I'm gonna save this, go to our website, find one of our email, which is dog@dog.com. We 123 password doesn't matter, and when it goes in there, we see that click is not really working. Now let's understand what's the problem. Maybe I need a reload, and that's all that's gonna have. That's all the reason of the problem. I'm gonna call it 1111. I'm gonna look, and still it does not click. And I think we just missed a detail. The button needs to have the type of submit in order to submit the information. So I think nothing else can cause this, because everything else is correct. So let's save this one more time, reload, check the email, which is dog@dog.com. It's 123123. When I log in, it's correct. We get all the information that we need. Is the ID, username, email, password, and all the data actually we have in our database. So everything is correct. And if everything is correct, what stays to us to do in our registration in a file, where we also do the login. I'm gonna rename this to users.php right after we finish. I need just to compare if it's correct or no. And for this, there is a good function which is called password verify. So let's, if this email exists, and let's use password verify function, and this actually accepts two parameters, and the first of them is the password which we have. Remember, we did hash the password before sending to database. That's why we actually need this function, which will compare our string which we got in here on 58th line, which is not hashed, to the hashed password. And the second one is the real password, so which can be accessed by this array of objects. You can see here the password. So it's gonna be email exists, and that's why it's an array of objects. Let's treat it as an array, and the name of it was password. So let's just clean this. If everything correct, it's gonna log in the user. And that's pretty much it, I think. Nothing. And the other case is gonna be when the user is not did provide us with a wrong password, so we need to tell the user that something is terribly or really wrong. So let's do the following right now. First of all, we need to understand that now we compare to hashed password. So whatever user we have created before we started to save the users using hash, it's gonna come wrong. So these ones are gonna be obviously wrong because at certain point in the last user only we have this hashed password. So let's create another user to which we can interact with. I'm gonna go back one more time. I'm gonna go to registration, and there is syntax error on line 51, which I think is the reason that we did not put the semicolon, which quite sometimes happens to me, and which is not really good. Okay, it's on register.php on line 51. So I see here on line 50 this var down, which actually has no reason to be in here. And let's check here. So insert is commented, probably left from the last lesson. So if I go back right now and reload the page, it might be good and I am correct. There is nothing else. So let's register a user called Super Shark, whom we can test. And email will be supershark@supershark.com 123123, and the password again 123123. And after agreement, I'm gonna register. Everything went smoothly, and after reloading my database page, I shall see that there are the super shark in here, and you can see that the password is really hashed in here, and so we shall be able to log in now. Going to our login page, let's check if we get any mistake. Let's first copy this email, and the password is 123123. After login, I go to rag.php and I see an empty page. I guess everything is smooth, so let's echo something. Echo, we are cool. And let's save this. Go back one more time. I'm gonna do it again. Login, and we are cool. Actually, information passes through, so everything is correct. And now let's try to see what happens if we do a mistake. I'm gonna paste this here and tell it we are not cool. After going back, reload, I'm gonna go to the same super shark, tell 123123. Oh, sorry, I need to do a wrong password, so something really wrong, and we are not cool. So everything is correct, and here's what's gonna happen. If we have a mistake, it's gonna push an error into our error array log, and which is gonna be shown inside the page. So let's copy this line of code we have written above on line 58. Let me close this and go a bit closer so as it's more visible for you. I'm gonna paste this in here, but this time I'm gonna push the following. It's gonna be, you have an there is either email or password are wrong. So we don't give any information what's wrong, we just tell that something is terribly wrong. And I think that's it. I'm gonna have this done. So let's also try to save this, and I'm gonna save this inside our session, $session. Remember, we start the session each time the user comes to this page, which is just on the top. It's called session start, and we call it log error, and it's gonna be equal to our ERR array log. So obviously if something is wrong, the mistakes are gonna go there. So let's go to our login, go a bit down. I think we can write it right above the form, and I'm gonna copy the code from register.php, which we have done already. I'm gonna copy this code, go to login, and paste it right above the form. So just cleaning these additional spaces, and this time the key is not errors, it's log error. Let's copy the line, paste this in here, and start testing how we handle our errors. So I'm gonna do first with empty fields. Okay, we did not do header. Let's also header information to our login page if something is wrong. So let's try to push it right after here. After this line, we push it and we header to other place, or let's just do it in the end. So location base URL login. Let's check if it's what's the name. Yeah, login.php. Let's go back, reload, try to login, and we see that we are still getting no errors. And let's understand what's the reason of that. And the reason I think is simple is the fact that we did not start the session on the top of the page, because in order to access the super global, we actually need to start that session. So I'm gonna write here session start, and let's test our features right now. Going like this, we have empty fields. It's still empty. So let's do something in here. Either email or password are wrong, and let's try actually something that is correct this time. I'm gonna paste the email is here, and the password, if you remember, was 123123, and it's gonna pass through and no error. So everything is correct. We are doing actually what we need. Let's clean these spaces just to make our code aesthetically more beautiful. And I'm gonna come here, and I believe we were able to find errors. And right now let's identify if the connection is established or no. And for that reason, we are gonna go with session variables, and we are gonna set up some sessions. But before that, in order not to get this kind of errors anymore, let's make sure we have the header. I think I don't remember actually if we did that together or no. If no, we are gonna do this. Yeah, we have this header.php file, and let's see what that includes. Yeah, it includes everything about the header, and I think I'm gonna leave it like that at this moment. But later on we are gonna change, and header is gonna include this area too, including start the session, because we need this session in every page. It doesn't matter where we are. So let's forget about this for a moment and go back to our reg.php and set up some session variables in here. So let's do it like this. Session, first of all, it's gonna be called ID, and it's gonna have the value of ID of the user. So let's call it like this. it was called email exists, and if we were able to get the password, we shall be able to get the other information as well. So I'm gonna paste this right in here, and right here ID. I'm gonna copy this line a couple of times, and just make sure we have access to admin to know if the user is administrator or no, and that's gonna help us to understand what we show to him. And I'm remove this D, and I'm gonna get admin, and I believe it's still what we need, and I'm gonna print information in here. Let's do vardump of our session to see which information we have accessible inside super global. Let's close this one more time and try to load it. It's still log error, which does not have any information, but if we make a successful login, it's gonna change the view, and we have it in here. So admin is 0, it's nice, and ID is a string of two characters, it's 34, and we have an array of log error which is 0. So everything passes through, everything is correct, we were able to do what we wanted. And right now what we might want to do is, instead of this login, telling to users hello Ivan, or tell the name, and if it has available admin panel, if the user is administrator, let's make it in a way that the user can access it here instead of registration. If no, the user does not need anything, I think we might leave here just a logout button. So let's reload the page. We don't actually need that anymore, and see what we are doing in here. I'm gonna pass through my pages. First of all, to make header including this session start for everything that we need, and I'm gonna cut this body part up to this area and put this inside our header. So let's put this here, and here on the top of header I'm gonna paste this, and this is a lot more better right now. So our session is gonna start anyway, it doesn't matter what happens. So but let's only make sure that session starts before anything other happens on the website. So let's do like this, give some spaces to make it more beautiful, and remove this header area from other elements as well, because we actually don't need in there too. Here in index, I believe we just have removed, no, we did not do yet, but let's remove it in index. In login it's removed, in register, in registration we still have it. I'm gonna delete it in here too, and let's delete it in a single.php too. It's none of a use of anyone or anything, and you will see the advantage of what I am doing just in minutes. Let's reload and see what's the matter of the inclusion. It's on a header PHP on a line 4. So let's go right there. Yeah, just a small semicolon left. And yeah, everything is correct. But actually we know that everything we do happens already right after the session starts. So let's remember that we have just logged in, and now let's understand what we are doing with this area where it tells login, and I am gonna use if conditions to understand what we are gonna output right in there. So we are gonna keep the list for sure, and right after it we are gonna start a PHP tags, and so as we are able to work with them. And here we are gonna have if conditions which are gonna check if the user is logged in or no. If it's logged in, let's show this, and if no, the other one. And after if, I put this sign, and I'm gonna close the PHP text because we need to output HTML in between. And right after it, let's also end if, just to make sure that our if condition is met fully. And here it is. And here what we are gonna do, if our variable of session is true, which we have done in our reg.php, let's go a bit upper. So if our session ID, I'm gonna remove this, I think we don't need this at this moment. Let's just keep for ID and admin at this moment. If our session ID is true, actually if it exists, let's echo the username. So if session ID, instead of login, let's echo, let's keep the username. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do, to get the username from database. Let's copy this line one more time. And remember what's the name in database. It's username. And it's gonna be username here too. Email exists, username. Okay, now let's echo this. Going to our header, and it's gonna be like this, but it's gonna be of course in PHP text. That's done, and it's not gonna do anything. It's because we don't need any reload. So let's reload the page we have and see what we got. Undefined index username, and I fully understand because session is not set. We added this parameter right after we logged in. So let's enter to website one more time. Login again. Yeah, and you see here Super Shark. This is what actually we want. So we see the name, and instead of registration we will put a logout button. But let's also do this, add an else condition to make sure that we output what comes if we don't meet here. And for this, let's go like this. Again, open PHP. I'm gonna tell else, and here we are gonna put this login. So this is done too. And if I'm not logged in, I don't need actually this registration. It's none of use to me. But let's copy this one time, because maybe if I am an admin of the website, I may need actually to go to my admin panel. So for this registration, let's do this if statements one more time. I'm gonna copy these lines, enter inside my unordered list, and paste here the information. Actually, if session ID exists, here is what we are gonna do. Here we are gonna say logout. And if it does not exist, we are gonna say what it was happening before. Let's Control X, going back to previous line and paste this in here. Okay, so let's reload the page. It still shows for us registration. Yeah, because I did not change it, I believe. So if we have session ID, it's gonna tell like this. So obviously I think let's see what we missed in here. And I think there is no any mistake, it's just these elements are absolute, and we left one more additional unordered list, and this is what covers whatever it's going on there. So if I remove this, we are gonna see that everything is gonna be correct. I actually getting logout, so everything comes out correct, except the fact I think we missed the styling. It's not actually what we want to do. So let's do the following. Still keep this LIA, this list which we have. I'm gonna copy this, keep it inside the list so as we don't lose the styling, and put in here the logout. And right after reload, we are gonna see that everything is more than correct. Yeah, here it's logout. Okay, so we did this, but let's consider one more thing and one more situation. What happens if you are an admin user? Because right after we do this, we are gonna create an admin page, which is an important piece of managing the website. So let's go right inside here, and I think we need to add another unordered list, but this time it's gonna need to be a bit more positioned differently than the top unordered list. So let's see how we have done this inside our style.css. I'm gonna go here inside our CSS file, drag and drop it here, and find the styles which we have given to this element, and it's on line 56. So let's go up there. So, but it's not about absolute positioning. Somewhere here we made it absolute, so give me a second to find it. Here it is. It's on the top 70, but if we make another unordered list, so let me show you what I want to do. I'm gonna copy this fully, because anyway we are gonna use this, and give it a class of second UL, going to our styles and copying this line fully, and call, instead of CSS tag, let's call this second UL, but this time instead of top 70 it's gonna be top 140 pixels. And if I go there, reload the website, and let's see if it's correct. Not yet, maybe I missed some CSS spelling. So let's see how I named it, second UL. Yeah, I believe everything is correct, but I don't even need this area because it has a class name. Let's reload. Yeah, that's here. But it's a bit too much, 70 is a bit too much, so let's do, for 140 is too much, so let's do 110. Reloading. Yeah, they are coming right next to each other, so everything is cool. And I'm gonna back to header, and this time I need to do this in case there are two things happening. And if we have this session ID and the user is an admin, so let's get this. And also I'm gonna move if condition, the ending of if condition out. Here it is. And actually we don't need any else in this case, because it's just about echoing something if the user is admin. So let's go back. One more line additional cleaning. And it's gonna go to logout.php. This is the file where we are gonna log out our users. Oh, sorry, it's gonna go to our admin page right after fixing this, and let's call it admin.php. We will change something if we don't like it. So let's do like this, admin, and here on the top on the logout I'm gonna need to go to logout.php. This is what we needed, I think, and if I reload the page it will be there, but again we need a case where the username is an admin. So, and I believe we saved this inside session variable, so let's go here. Yeah, here it is. If session admin is strongly equal to 1, because if you remember, we put it either 0 or 1. If you go to database, you are gonna see this. It's all zeros. So let's reload the page. But this time the admin is gonna go because our value of session admin is 0. So we did manage to do this part too. And now let's just log out the user. And that's it. As you can see, if I click logout, it's gonna be a mistake because our logout page does not exist yet. But if I go here and add a file, logout.php, actually I don't need any header in here. That's why I will just start the session. It just manages the logout of users, so it's gonna be session start. And actually I just need to unset the variables which we have created, so the objects actually inside the session. So it's gonna be session ID $, session, it's gonna be ID. I'm gonna copy these lines, and we had also login and admin, or username. I think it was username and admin, and header to the location, header to our page. Again, we did this one time. It was called, these are location headers, and I'm going to add our base URL just to make sure that we go to correct path right after we are logged out. But let's make sure we have this base URL available in the page. For this, let's include the path to the file which includes the variable. So going back here, and I'm gonna add it right after session start. But before we test it, let's make sure not to get errors. We did unset here, so if we go to header, it's gonna check for session, it's unset, and it's gonna return us a ton of errors. So here is what we are gonna do. I think we are gonna have another if condition in which all this is gonna wrapped in, and I think that's it. If, or we are just gonna say if is set. and it's gonna solve the problem fully for us. Let's test this attitude. I think it's gonna give us full advantage, and nothing else will be done by us. If is set session ID, and for this particular case we can't check the session admin if it is set or no, but what we are gonna do in here, we are gonna wrap this inside PHP tags in if condition. If so, obviously this if condition is gonna be met only if our session admin is set. So I'm gonna copy and put this in here, doing the same, closing PHP tags, and right after first and if, I'm gonna close the second one. I believe everything is saved and we have a chance to test it. If I go to login and I go with my super shark and I go to 123 and if I log in, I have super shark and I have logout. I click logout and I'm logged out. Everything is cool, everything is working correctly. Congratulations. Let's just one small thing, let's test if this admin stuff works. So for this reason, I'm gonna do it like this, just so as you can see my image on the right side. Let's go like this. I'm gonna be scrolling. It's my super shark. My admin is 0. I'm gonna change this to 1. Yeah, and it's done. And let's see if I have access to admin. Reloading one more time. So we need to log in. Going there as super shark 123. After login, I see admin. Everything is cool and everything is correct. Although I was a bit tired today, we were able to do this lesson 2 today, and we will continue in the next lesson. I am gonna supply you with ready admin dashboard code. Actually, I think I don't find it funny to code it on live. Anyway, you are gonna have this. This course is more about PHP. That's what I think about that. And that's it. And we will work with admin dashboard. Admin will be able to add, create, remove, delete posts, users, and etc. Thank you for following along with me. Follow, subscribe, and wait for next videos.